Hey guys, this is Danny, also known as iAnnihilate, and I'll be giving you my first impressions as well as my predictions for how things are going to go with these patch notes for 7.32. I've played a handful of games so far in the patch, like it's been a couple days now, so I feel comfortable giving like my honest first impressions and having like a feel for the changes. I haven't played against all the heroes, haven't played all the heroes, but I have a good idea of how things are sort of falling into place, and I'll make some predictions, and we'll see how bad it turns out like a month from now when the meta gets solved or whatever the nerds find out. Um, First and foremost, we'll start with the general changes. So, Primal Beast to Captain's Mode. I'm not sure about that hero. Doesn't seem too strong, but it doesn't seem weak either. I think it was just very unpopular from not being in Captain's Mode. So it should get a bit more picked just from experimenting. The XP change for level is very interesting. So I'll leave the numbers up on the screen, but I find that I hit level 6 on mid like 30 seconds later on average, I think. Just because you need more XP on literally every level. And there's no small camp as well. So I don't know if it's like 30 or 45 seconds, like a whole wave, maybe a second wave, depending on the denies, but it definitely slows the game pace down a little bit. It's hard to really put into words, but you definitely feel like the game has like an extra minute or so of laning. And it's a very lane centric patch so far, from what I can tell. On top of that, whatever these numbers mean, I think that you get less experience from streaks or something. But I don't know. It really doesn't matter. It's not something you should really focus on either. The flag bearer creep is also an important thing, especially for mid. So like a lot of my takes and my explanations here will be from like a mid player point of view, since that's my main role. So before the flag bearer creep, we had the small camp mid, which has been removed, and this would be a source of extra golden experience. Now we have the flag bearer creep, which is basically a double melee creep, and you like have to be in lane to last hit it. It's not even just like if it dies to the creep you don't get the gold. You have to actually last hit it. So it buffs lane dominators. It buffs laning in general. There isn't an easy neutral camp to go to from mid at all. Like the other camps are actually really far away. It feels like now too, not just the small camp being gone. Like there's more trees in that area. The dire camps seem farther. The radiant camps seem farther, and you really get punished for either not making plays with your timing. So like, level 6 Void Spirit, maybe level 7 or 8 Ember, um, or just like sitting in lane longer, getting more gold since you don't really have an option to farm. That just changes a lot. Like this change is a bigger change than a lot of the hero nerfs and the hero buffs even. Like these general changes dictate a lot of the meta more than the individual buffs, if that makes sense. So like something like Quap or SF, traditional like lane bullies, this is a huge buff to them because the enemy mid can't just go to the side, the small camp, and recover as easily. But yeah, long-winded way of saying laning is a bit more important. And on top of that, we also have another big general change that I'd like to talk about, which I think the glyph change. So even though the early part of the game should be a little slowed down from people wanting to stay in lane longer and from the why am I blanking? From the XP changes, you only get one glyph refresh per tier of tower. So instead of every time a tier 1 falls, you get a new glyph, every time tier 1 falls, and then a tier 2 falls, tier 3, like the first time a tier 1, 2, or 3 tower dies, you get the glyph, which is going to make the games harder later, but it makes the early game pace a lot faster. You can kill mid tower, and then they get one glyph, and if they use it, they won't have glyph for the tier 2 tower. So maybe you can get their outposts earlier. It makes killing multiple towers when you're ahead faster, which is gonna speed up the game a decent amount, at least in competitive play. And it makes it like the classic most annoying thing is maybe your Beastmaster or something, you kill their tier 1 top, and then you push up all the way to their tier 2 with a huge wave, they glyph, because their glyph got reset, right? And then it multi shots. that should happen a little less often. It could be that you've killed the first tier 1. That's very possible. But you might make them use Glyph on a different tower before you get to the tier 2 at a different time, and yeah, just speeds up the game. The other thing that I've noticed right away is that the Ancient got buffed. It actually won me my first game of the patch. Our Ancient was naked with 1,000 HP left, so it should have died with the old armor. But yeah, those are big general changes. I'll hop around in a demo lobby showing the map changes as well real quick. So this is a quick tip as well. In the Learn tab, or actually in the Heroes tab, Global Items. So normally you have the demo mode that's like the small sandbox. If you demo a terrain, then you can actually get into the full map, which is pretty cool. I use this a lot. Just kind of showcase stuff. So I'll buy a blink, spells. So this is a bunch of trees. It feels a little more annoying to walk over here for some reason from here. Like, it just like this stepping stone camp to these other camps isn't there. Yada yada. This camp was already pretty far away, and because they turned this camp around, basically, like, if you can cut the trees, sure, it's about the same distance, but it does feel a little farther from mid as well. There's no camp here anymore.
Forward.
I think the flag bearer creep spawns a little later in the game, so I can't, like, force spawn it, to my knowledge.
Agreed.
And, let me double check here. Oh, right, this was the big... This area as well. This seems much more toxic for Dire to get to Roche. At least, I think it does. Like, this seems a lot easier for Radiant to get down, whereas, like, this is, like, a lot more of a choke point. And I think they moved this outpost as well a little bit. It's hard to tell. This still feels like kind of the same, but kind of foreign. It's really hard to judge map changes without playing a lot on it, but this definitely feels like a lot more difficult for both teams, really. Like, if you're Dire and you want to rush in and stop the Radiants from roshing, you're a lot more compact in this area. But at the same time, if Dire's holding a ward up here, they can be really hard to, like, breach these high grounds. Like, there's 2 high grounds here, and then there's, like, walking through here is also very toxic. So, I don't know. It should lead to some exciting gameplay, at least. Anytime there's, like, difficult terrain, usually makes exciting team fights, so we'll see. And yeah, that's about it for general changes. Other than that, we'll just hop through some item changes now through this. So, BKB having a 50 mana cost, honestly, it's not to necessarily nerf BKB. It does come up every now and then where, oh my god, I don't have enough mana to BKB. I didn't realize that. I was playing even Legion earlier and I ran out of mana in like a 2-minute long fight, which is like kind of an anomaly for Dota to have a 2-minute long fight, but it does happen every now and then where the mana cost matters. Where it matters the most is if you watched any competitive Dota in the past year, people have been spamming BKB refresher on so many heroes. So like Mars, Blink, BKB refresher. Razor, BKB refresher. The refresher itself also costs 50 more mana, so you're having to use 100 extra mana, or I guess 150 if you're using both BKBs, right? And then refresher shard also costs 200 mana, so it really makes those type of builds a lot less viable and harder to pull off. Like, a Mars is going to be very mana constrained without some sort of in-between item, or at least a soul ring still in his inventory, right? And similarly with Razor, you might run out of mana a lot faster doing that sort of build. Blade Mail, this is a huge buff for Axe and LC. They also received some minor buffs themselves, and they're also pretty strong in lane a lot of the time. Like, Legion's normally a lane bully if you pick it in the right lane. And Axe, same thing. It can usually be pretty strong in a lane. It can cut the waves and get the waves for free usually in some matchups too. So they should be able to get to Blink Blade Mail in the right game pretty quickly, and this is a huge buff, especially for Legion, with the duel lasting a little longer at later levels. You really get, like, max value out of that. Bloodstone doesn't really matter. Dragonlance, this changes being able to buy BKB by disassembling Dragonlance, so that definitely nerfs a lot of the ranged heroes. Like, I don't think I was really doing it much on TA, but Luna and Morphling, I guess. I don't know. There's probably one more hero I can think of, Gyro, that would do that sort of build. I think most of the time I'd just be playing like mid, so like it would be just like an Echo Saber hero like Tiny, which is still possible. These changes, honestly, a lot of them don't matter. They're just minor buffs. The Glimmer buffs are actually a little significant. That 50 cast range is something that could make a huge difference, especially like Aether Lens or whatever on top of that. And then the magic resistance is nice as well. These change mostly don't matter. They're just really small buffs. Even this buff to Mage Slayer is probably more significant than these other buffs up here. As well, like this change right here to Helm of the Overlord is true for all lifesteal basically now, unless I'm forgetting. Like maybe they didn't explicitly write it about Paladin Sword. I don't remember if that was in the patch notes, but for the most part, almost all lifesteal or all lifesteal is 50% as effective against creeps. So I think that includes Roche. It should make it harder to solo Roche. And it should make it harder to sustain in the jungle on certain heroes, or just like heal up between fights on the creeps. So people would do that a lot. I noticed it a little bit with Satanic even. I popped my Satanic on a creep wave as troll today with a Battle Fury, and I didn't heal to full health from one creep wave. So you probably still heal to full on like a big jungle camp or something, but yeah. Or Ancients. Just some small buffs to, or nerfs and buffs to a lot of different stuff. So Mech will be a little better for Chen and Wisp. Radiance is a little better on the 1 or 2 heroes that still buy that. Refresh Orb received another nerf, which is nice. This item's been purchased way too much. Really annoying to play against, double BKB, so I'm glad to see nerfs on that. Shadow Amulet, shout out to all the griefers out there. Now you can only grief for 15 seconds at a time. Condolences. So you can't just go straight up AFK. Obviously, the duration is longer than the cooldown, so if they're sitting there spamming it, they're fine. But yeah, at least when you're getting griefed, you know the guy's sitting there pressing a button. He's not just watching Netflix. You know, small wins. Oh yeah, so Vlad, same type of nerfs. These changes don't really matter. Neutral items, we can show a couple of these in game actually. So I'll try to showcase these as well. So I'll grab all of the new ones. Let's see, Broom Handle's actually still in the game. I think someone mentioned on Reddit it was shadow removed, but I think it's still in the game. I've seen it a lot. This one, they've also removed some neutral items, which we'll go back to the patch notes and look at. Havoc Hammer's back. Your middle tower is under attack. I forget one. Onward. Don't get mad at me, but this one is a pretty nice item for carries. It replaces or even for supports. Like, it's really honestly nice for anyone. 100 health is always welcomed, and being able to basically AoE tango yourself while you're farming a camp, or while you're laning somewhere, or if you're a support on multiple heroes, just a nice little bonus. It's replaced the Chipped Vest, from my knowledge, so that I was glad that Chipped Vest was removed. I thought it was way too strong in the early game. Like, if I played Spectre and got a Chipped Vest, it completely changes how quickly I scale into the game. This item is weird. It gives 200 mana baseline, which is good on really any hero. Any hero would like 200 mana. And this is really like Pangalier's Wet Dream, this little like attack speed slow thing with mana. Pango wants nothing more than to slow people with his Q and have more mana to Q. So kind of a Pango item, very interesting. I'm not sure if it's too useful on many other heroes, but maybe even on like an Ember it's okay. With the Sleight of Fist, but yeah, the best item so far for when I'm like playing any sort of core or even support is this like water regen item. The Ocean Heart got removed for this. Whenever you're jungling, you get attacked 5 times, you just have a lot of mana regen, basically like a free Bassi ring with stats. This is an amazing item. This is like, I would pay like 700 gold for this item in the game or something. So maybe even more, maybe like 800, 850. Like it's like a huge. Your bottom tower is under attack. I played Troll Warlord earlier, like I said. I had this before Battle Fury. I had this after Battle Fury. I had so much mana to spam my spells and always had mana to ult. This item is really good for regen in the early game. I have not tried this Blades of Ritsul too much. I think I saw a Legion Commander do pretty well with it. It definitely seems better on some heroes than others. 40 damage is a lot. 100 health can be a lot, but probably not to too many heroes. It seems overall good. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just a damage item, right? It's not like as weird as the other ones. This Specialist Array, same feeling as the other item. Like, I don't know how often this crack shot thing matters, but 8 all attributes, sure. I'm down. 8 all attributes, 10 damage. I'm down to have this on any carry, really. So, even if I'm not ranged, just depends what other items are in the shop for me. The Ogre Seal Totem seems very clowny. I'm sure you've played Ag's Lab or whatever with this. It doesn't stun, but it does slow. I played against a Bat Rider with this, and it was very clowny. I'm not sure if it worked with Sticky Napalm, but he just, like... It just looked really cool with Firefly. This is just a fun item. I'm glad this is in the game. As far as neutral items goes, it's a pretty fun one. I like the way they've gone with cast range items. I think they removed the mini Aether Lens tier 1 item, thankfully. I think the cast range items were a bit too good, especially for supports. And I definitely think, like, even as support, 20% max mana is worth 125 cast range. Like, I think it's worth having that much of a debuff on you. This is still, like, very, very good on a lot of heroes. Havoc Hammer, this was in the game before. It's very strange. I had a Pudge on my team, right? And you're like, Pudge is going to have a lot of strength. This should be really good on him. But you don't really want to knock people away on most strength heroes. So it's still very difficult to really understand when to use. But, yeah, like... I guess you can still use it for wave clear. It's not terrible. It's just, I don't like it as a tier 4 item, and that was my problem with it before. I really don't fully understand its use case. Like, if this was an agility or an int item that had the same effect, but it scaled off int or agility, and it gave int or agility, it's probably not bad to, like, knock someone back as a ranged hero and deal damage, but it's just very weird on a strength hero. And yeah, so, like we talked about already, these are what the items do. You can read the patch notes yourself. I looked at them individually. Fey Grenade got removed. I mentioned the tier 1 items that got removed. Finally, the Lincoln's free Lincoln's cancels removed. Essence Ring was also way too strong in the mid-game. Quicksave Amulet, I don't know. I'm not going to miss it, but it was an okay, decent item. So yeah, it did mention the Paladin Sword's lifesteal as well. Not going to miss Spider Legs. I mean, they were really good, but... it was honestly, like, too strong since its inception. Even when it, like, counted as full boots, it was, like, stronger. But this item was just way too good. Leveler, I don't know. I don't think anyone's really going to miss it. No carry wanted to actually hold the Leveler, but they would hold it to deal building damage, so probably by design isn't very good. Havoc Hammer, we already talked about. The mana cost in this, so I guess this goes in line with, like, Refresher and BKB. Like, they're just nerfing multiple BKBs, making everything cost more mana, even the neutral item at tier 5. And I'm honestly, you might think 350 is too much, but it is a 60-minute item. People have a lot more mana by then. And then Mirror Shield, I'm not sure what makes them nerf a tier 5 item. Like, I don't know how many games you even play with tier 5 items where this comes up, but it is what it is. And now we'll move on to heroes. So... I'm going to go over these pretty quickly if I don't think it matters. I have some notes with me that I took from looking over these notes myself, like the patch notes, and just like from playing in-game. I laned against an Abaddon. I've played against an Abaddon a couple times. I think the hero is way, way stronger in lane. It was already a very strong strategy to start a Photic Shield and run into people and just trade, even 1v2, because they would pop on both of them. You would take less damage. And at 100 mana per shield, it was very valuable still. So it does, like, blocks 110, does 110. That's very, very, very high value for a level 1 spell. And now that it's cheaper, it's even better. So this hero should get picked up an okay amount. I also liked picking the heroes. Like, Viper's picked a lot, and I didn't see a lot of Abaddon that much. So maybe this will make him picked more often. I did see Abaddon, when picked at tournaments, do pretty well, but it could also be just selective memory. Alch changes seem interesting. I haven't seen the hero at all yet. I think the carry Alch still works. I've heard that support Alchemist might be okay with the talents, but not seen it. Not really going to talk about it too much. Ancient Apparition, same thing. I think this attack speed slow makes him a lot stronger, but haven't seen him too much, and honestly probably still not that strong. I will mention that Battle Fury heroes, because the early game's like a little slower, so like mids get online a little later, there's the Flag Bearer creep, so that you can actually farm to your Battle Fury a little faster without having to kill neutrals before your Battle Fury. Like, the hard part about getting Battle Fury was other heroes could just farm the jungle earlier, either from their spells or Maelstrom or something, right? And there wasn't as big of a payoff of waiting for like 13, 14, 15 minutes for your Battle Fury, where you should get it a little faster now, should be under a little less pressure. It might make like Anti-Mage, PA, and Troll a lot more viable with that build, or even Ursa. I would say out of the heroes I've seen so far, Troll seems the strongest. Like I think Troll's actually very, very good right now, mid or carry. Carry, I would probably prioritize a Battle Fury. Maybe there's some games where Maelstrom's still good, and then mid you would just go to like Hood Ags BKB build, like a brawling build. But I could see, especially with these buffs as well, like the mana cost on Blink is a big buff. The range scaling is a bit weird, but you get more range at the max levels and usually max it pretty early anyway. And then the cooldown change at the early level as well. Like these type of changes, especially mana pool for anti-mage, help them a lot. The stun talent being taken off hurts them, but Battle Fury and stuff should be a little easier. We'll see how it plays out. I think they should be more viable. I could be totally wrong. Arc Warden, who cares? Probably the same hero. Axe, like I said, buffed a lot just because of Blade Mail working so well with Call, or like the hero in general. And these other changes also benefit him a decent amount. I think the mana regen talent was nice at 10. Sorry, but like losing strength is not a big deal. The cast point on Call is really nice for catching people. You would be surprised on how often this could make a difference. And the slow increase is honestly really nice for lane and other stuff. It just seems like a much stronger hero now. Especially, like, even though classically he can jungle or kill ancients with counter helix, the flag bearer creep being like you just go cut the waves as axe early if you in certain matchups and you farm in between. Like, you should be able to farm a decent amount faster. It does pure damage too, so it doesn't care about the magic resistance on the flag creep. But yeah. Similarly, like, Axe was one of those heroes where mids tried to gank a little earlier. Like, if you could gank an Axe before Vanguard, so like the time's kind of ticking on that, right? Having them hit 6, like even a couple creep waves later, should help you a lot. Bane, not really care about. Does Batrider change? I've been told the hero is very strong in good matchups, still mid, and then it should be worse in bad matchups. So, like, against a Quap without the small camp, you should have a harder time. It's probably not unplayable. I would also venture to say that because the sticky does damage, it's probably better in the side lane as well. I've noticed offlane bats have performed a lot better this patch from my low sample size, like my 10 games or so. I've seen a couple bats, and I've also seen some games on streams. Hitting both of them with it, and like not having to kill camps as early, like it really makes the hero a little stronger in the lane. Like this is like a laning buff, and with offlane bat specifically, you didn't have the small camp either, so just stuff to think about is like it should be stronger. And the shard build is something I've seen people try a lot with, like a Witchblade after Blink BKB. It does feel like a lot of heroes got their like super 25s nerfed or super late game. So like that was a classic refresher hero. And if you lassoed somebody and refreshed your Firefly on them with everything, like 2 Fireflies was a lot of damage with the napalms. And now that only has 1, it's a little bit less, but you still have so much damage, it should be fine. Beastmaster, I'm not sure if this is better or worse. I'm not like a Beastmaster expert by any means. A lot of these seem like this is obviously a small nerf to Inner Beast. This is obviously a small nerf to the Boar. The cast point on Axis seemed nice. Everyone was getting them level 1 to secure creeps anyway. The Shard cooldown reduction is better. The Hawk should be better. The cast range got nerfed on it though. Like a lot of the changes are kind of hard to evaluate unless you're like a hero spammer. So like trying to think of a hero that will go over that will be like, so like Timbersaw, right? Like they just change his numbers around like willy-nilly, like oh now he has 10, 20, 30, 40 armor stacks, but they give less but give more. They like just moved a bunch of numbers around, small buffs, small nerfs everywhere, so it's hard to see where they lie. And yeah, it's just hard to say if this Ags is any good either. I haven't seen it all. But it should still be the same hero overall. Just don't know what he's better at specifically. It's more like timing stuff. Bloodseeker's overall pretty much the same. Bounty Hunter Shard seemed like it was better before. I don't know about this one. Seems bad to me. Brewmaster is also one of those heroes where, like, you'd probably have better time asking Monkeys Forever because he plays the hero 40 times a day what he thinks about this. The old Ags was broken. Like, boring to play against broken. Ulting 4 times was, like, ridiculous. I never want to see that again. But this new Ags, even though it's worse because it's not as broken, is still really good, I think, from what I've seen. I haven't seen it lose yet. The 2 games it was on my team, it felt pretty good. I've seen people try auras because the Primal Companion copies your auras, basically. Always having a split available, either to farm with or to, like, throw someone up in the air, is really nice. It's not as nice as, like, alting whenever you want, ending your ult, and, like, having 4 alts, but very different play style, so it's hard to evaluate if it's, like, still really good or was better before but different now. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just hard to say. I think if you're a brew player, you'll at least have fun playing this, and the hero's still really good. That's all you really have to know. These bristle change, I'm not sure how much cast range he really lost on this. Maybe I'll demo it really quickly. So, like, anything I'm not sure about, we can just bust it up here. So,
onward.
take an ally bristly back, level to max, by the Aghanims, and let's see. So this is 650 instead of 800. I think that's a pretty big nerf. It makes it harder for him to chase people. I would say that these changes should make him a lot less strong, but he's still very strong. You know, like, these aren't huge nerfs. It more so depends on how everything else falls into place. I say this a lot on my stream, where I'm just the noises are annoying me. Let me just pan over here. So there's a lot on my stream where sometimes it doesn't matter how strong a hero is if all its counters are really strong. Like, even if they're less strong, if they're just picked every game, you're not going to have a good time. So it really depends on how the rest of the meta pans out and how the general changes affect the broad scope of heroes. So, like, if for some reason, like, I thought Bristleback was super strong a couple years ago. He wasn't that much different when he started getting picked now. But all the Silver Edge heroes were being spammed, and Silver Edge was super broken. It had Echo Saber in it. So, like, why would you ever pick Bristle? Like, it's stuff like that that even, like, that makes heroes kind of sleeper broken for a while, and then when they can actually fit in the meta, you see how strong they really are. Broodmother, I can't tell you if this stuff will be super good, if it matters or not. I'm not a Brood spammer. I don't think it matters. I think she's probably around the same hero. Centaur seems like a huge nerf. I think losing 3 armor is ridiculous, even for the regen. And I think the old Scepter was just way better, so it just seems kind of like a meme. It's really funny. I liked all the clips I saw, and I like, you know, the bug with the Snapfire Aghanims as well, but it's just not good. It's just kind of a meme. CK should be the same. Chen should be the same. You rarely got the Ags anyway, and this new Ag seems terrible. I haven't seen it. Maybe it's really good. If it is really good, my bad. It just seems terrible to me on paper. Clinks, I think this is a huge buff. Will it be enough to have him see play? I don't know. But channeling less long at max level and having all the arrows at all levels is really good, because you can maybe put more skill points in your other spells early, like Searing Arrows maybe, and, like, when you rush the Maelstrom, you still get 6 hits on the early levels of your Q. It still does the same damage at max level, but you channel less long, which is a big difference, because this is, like, something that a lot of carries with good spells suffer from. But, like, when you have 6 items on Clinks, you probably want to be auto-attacking and not casting your Q. Like, you probably will do more damage not sitting there stunning yourself channeling the spell. It just is much better early game before you have a bunch of attack speed, or if you're hitting a bunch of people in an AoE or something. So, like, having it channel for less time gives you more time to auto-attack and so forth, especially if it does the same amount of damage. It's just a big buff. It's the same reason why Monkey King carry can kind of be weird sometimes, is, like, you can channel your ult for a minute or whatever and like not get the perfect ult when you could just be a ranged hero auto attacking. Dawnbreaker core, the biggest mistake I see is they always try to ult in the fight and just stuns their hero for 3 seconds when they could just blink Q somebody, you know, stuff like that. You don't want to be caught using your spells. That's a big buff. The clockwork change seems really cool. I think the hero's fine without the scepter already. Maybe this is worse since you can't ult twice and cast all your spells twice. I think. Increases the hookshot stun radius and stun duration by 50%, so at least you get kind of like 1.5 stuns. I don't know. I think the scepter's more fun and cool and should be good. I don't know if it's as good as the last one, but hero's still fine. Pretty much the same hero. CM, same thing. Like, they moved her numbers left and right, up and down. Her aura got reworked for like the 40th time this year. It just gives more mana. That's all you need to know. I don't know why they keep doing this. I don't know if it was too good or now it's better. It's probably the same, just different. Darkseer is another one of these weird changes where, like, I thought the normal punch was really strong, but there wasn't a plague of Darkseers in all my games to make it cost 4,200 gold. But at the same time, this new shard seems like it could be really strong. I haven't seen it yet, but buffing like a Sven and having him slow everybody by 50% seems ridiculous. So, like, broken in a different way, but maybe more broken before, or maybe more broken now. It's gonna have to be like play tested. I think this will get picked up a lot, but it could also be that Darkseer just doesn't have a place in lanes right now. So it might just be a hard to pick hero in general. The Bramble Maze change is really nice, makes it easier to land your Q. Dawnbreaker, honestly the same hero, doesn't really matter. The nerf on her cast range on her W should make her a little slower in lane, but it casts a little faster. Still really strong in lane. Like, her numbers don't really change that much. Dazzle's about the same. Death Prophet's another weird one where I haven't done the numbers myself, but usually when you change from percent to flat, it's better early, worse later, and I would just assume that's how it works for a Siphon. Since it doesn't deal max health damage. It also makes her stronger when there isn't, like... So if you wanted a good Death Prophet game before, you wanted them to have tanky heroes because you did percent damage and it healed you at the same time. And your ulti did a lot of damage to them anyway. You can kind of pick it against any, like, amount of heroes. Doesn't matter if they're tanky or not. And you'll still do a lot of damage. So you're better against more heroes, but worse at being, like, a specialized tank killer, if that makes sense. The Exorcism buff should be good. Like, even though you lose base movement speed, having this now instead of only when it's active is probably better for the mid game. Like, when you're not ulting, you spend most of the game not ulted. So I assume this movement speed buff is probably better as the game goes on than how it was before. Glimpse doing damage is really nice.
Your top tower is
this hero just needed a little bit of damage from somewhere, and since you max Glimpse, having it do, or you'd like to max Glimpse, it just didn't do damage before. This solves that problem. It also makes it so people can't blink out of it. Just, you know, cool stuff like that. Doom seems really strong. The biggest thing that, like, shut down Dooms before is if you died after devouring, you wouldn't get the gold, which sucked. That's a huge buff. So you can actually feed your brains out and still get rich. And then this, like, reworked Scepter seems really good late game for catching heroes, like Puck or something, because you can just, like, doom yourself and then blink on them, and it insta-catches people that are solo, at least, like in a split-pushy game. In a team fight, I'd assume people will just force staff them away from the AoE Doom, and it won't really matter that much. They'll get their stuff off, but as far as, like, catching heroes, Doom's biggest problem was that he just, like, waved his hands up in the air. Like, he just waved his hands up, and then they just blink away or something. You just never catch people. The cast points were just too hard on his spells, unless you came from Fog or Invis. These changes don't matter. These changes don't really matter. A lot of, like, just small changes that don't matter. Another big change for, like, this is a hero I play a lot too, so Ember. I think overall better, but like many of the changes in this patch, they made some aspect of him worse. So his late game refresher 10 ag or 10 Remnant blow somebody up thing doesn't work anymore because it has a cooldown. But in the early game, Ember, honestly, one of Ember's biggest problems in the past, like, couple patches has been his mana pool in the early game. There's no good item for mana. It used to be drums like 4 or 5 years ago. You literally go like Bottle, Wand, Phase, Corrosion, Maelstrom, and BKB. None of them give you mana. The buff to your ult costing less mana in the early game is a godsend. So that is honestly a bigger buff than whatever shenanigans you could have done with the Remnants later, to be honest. Especially after a bunch of nerfs to the rest of the build anyway. Like the Ags used to cost 0 mana, now it costs a lot or whatever. Just like that build was kind of less strong already anyway. Enigma, pretty much the same. I don't know why Void got a buff. I felt like he was one of the best carries last patch, but maybe I'm wrong. Like, I'm not a carry player. This seems just like makes it easier for him to catch people with Chrono early. Like, I don't know. It seems like a very weird buff out of nowhere. Like, even gets more range after the shard, even though they nerfed it for some reason. But a lot of these change again. They don't matter. Hoodwink's shard being like the old Ag is actually really, really strong. I think this hero should get picked up quite a bit. Her burst damage is like probably the best on a lot of supports. Probably even better than a Skywrath, honestly, as far as like catch and burst goes. A little harder to execute, like it takes more time than just casting your ult on somebody when they're stunned, but very, very strong hero, I think. None of these changes matter as much. Invoker got shadow buffed because there's no small camp, and he never farmed that anyway. Really, even as Exort, you really didn't spend too much time farming it until level 8, when you had both Forge Spirits or whatever it was. Yeah, like, he'll love the flag creeps. I don't know if Exort will be viable. There really isn't, like, a good early game build for Exort. Still. Maybe, like, you go some type of Witchblade Midas or Drum Midas into Bongo Boots, I don't know. Weck should still be the same type of strength as well. It just really kind of depends. He's, like, another one of those heroes that, like, really meta-dependent. He needs the, like, heroes he's okay against in lane to be in the meta, and he needs heroes with a bunch of stuns to set up his spells to be in the meta. So, like, last patch, it felt pretty bad to be Invoker when you're off lane with something like Razor and Enchantress or something. Like, no setup for any of your spells. They just win their lane anyway. They don't need you to really gank them. They want people that either deal tower damage and kill objectives for them after they win their lane, or they want setup for their spells. So if more traditional offlaners are picked, like Axe, Legion, Mars, then this hero should be easier to pick on for like your own lineups as well. So we'll see. I think it should be a much better this patch in the meta. Wisp changes don't matter. Kiro changes, not a big deal. This is a pretty substantial Jug nerf, but he's still pretty good. Losing the movement speed on the main hero in the lane, like even 5, matters a lot. And then the Shard, Blade Fury movement speed should matter a decent amount too. Healing Ward Radius, like all these are pretty annoying for Jug, but I think he's still good anyway. Maybe he can be Battle Fury viable too, but he's typically not so good against those Battle Fury carries if they're popular. Like, PA does well against Jug. Even Anti-Mage does well against Jug. Troll does well against Jug. So, like, if those heroes with Battle Fury start getting good, probably see a little less Jug anyway. Caudle, a lot less viable mid. No small camp to farm. Harder to kill flag bearer creeps because they have a bunch of magic resistance. Glad to see this hero get nerfed out of mid. Maybe he'll still be somewhat viable. I think I've seen him picked once or twice. But just super annoying. Brainless to lane against hero. It's a lane meta. Get him out of here. Kunkka, I don't know. There's moved his talents left and right, up and down. Same hero. Legion Commander, this buff to duel, even if you lose the dual cast range talent, this is like a huge buff for the cast range, because like having just more cast range right away at level 6 is a little nice, even if it's just 50. And then later on having, like at level 12, having the same as having the talent anyway, just getting like this double dual damage talent if you're snowballing, or I forget, what's the other one? The other one is overwhelming odds radius. You're probably always getting this, like, turns your level 1 duel into level 2 duel instantly, and then you get basically level 3 duel at level 2, like, very, very strong to make this hero snowball faster. Less changes don't matter that much. Same hero. I'd have to mess around a bit with more with the ult. Like, I don't know how it affects when people do this thing where they turn it on, then turn it off, then turn it on again to ult 50% faster for more mana. Like, I'm not sure exactly how that plays out, but it should just still be basically the same hero. Same with, like, Lich and Lifestealer, like, small buffs. The Lina Scepter seems really cool, but honestly, it's completely worthless. It lasts 6 seconds. It's just not good. If it lasted longer, like 10 or 15 seconds, I think Magic Lina would unironically be really, really good. It just doesn't, so don't worry about it. Don't spend 4,200 gold on looking swag, because it will do nothing. Lion, no cares, really. Same with Lone Druid. The Luna Shard seems very, very strong, and getting the old shard, so it fires 2 glaives instead of 1, from the Lucent Beam is really strong. Thankfully, it doesn't fire on Eclipse. That'd be ridiculous, but yeah, I think this hero got a pretty big buff. Should be cool to see. The very, very strong laner, so I could see it being picked up in the patch as well. Lycan has, like these seem like very big buffs, but he seems pretty weak in the lane from my perspective, so it might not be good in the patch. I would assume that in the right game he'll be way better, but on average he should be worse. And I could be wrong about that. Maybe come TI qualifiers and TI's heroes just in every game, but like I said, these are just first impressions and like guesses on how the meta should play out. Magnus, nobody really cares. These are just like finally a good change. This hero should be much worse from my perspective. Like, it's kind of like the Earth Spirit Q and W change, but I think this hero functions a lot differently. So, like, having Blink Aether Lens and, like, yeeting somebody across the screen and having that be the insta-stun is way, way better later on in the game with BKBs and stuff than trying to fly across the screen to stun them and then throwing them. I haven't seen this hero win yet. It seems a lot worse in general. I think the ulti's a little stronger, but I'm glad to see that this, like, hero got changed quite a bit. And I'm not sure how it plays out in the early game, like ganking mid. It should still be kind of similar, but I'm glad to see this, like, super annoying hero that gank me all the time get nerfed. Mars should be, like, even though the ulti does a little less damage, I think, and the weird change to the passive, I think the mana cost on the spear getting reduced and the slow being stronger, and the fact that, like, we're in a laning meta, he's one of the strongest laning offlaners and even sometimes mid heroes in the game. So that's like a huge, huge buff to him. All these changes are not even close to how good the changes to, like, the flag bearer creep are for his, like, timings and how much he can bully people in the lane. Medusa, nobody cares. Meepo, nobody cares. These are just left and right, up and down changes. Morana, kind of the same. The Starstorm secondary target's kind of interesting, but I don't really expect it to make a big wave. Monkey King Shard seems completely ridiculous. I think it should get nerfed in some way, but I don't know. I think this hero is really, really strong right now, and I could be wrong about that as well. But giving him basically, like, a free reposition on his stun seems incredibly strong at catching heroes. Because, like, before, you would ult from Fog, and then you would stun, and then you would have to use your little leap. But now you can, like, ult, stun, and immediately be hitting them with your ulti. Or just, like, stun and immediately be hitting them, and that's a huge, huge buff. These Morphling changes, it's a lot of text for a whole lot of nothing, so I don't think this matters at all. I think this is an overall nerf, even though it's sometimes, like, if you're stunned, it's going to be stronger. But I think they made it shift less fast and cost more mana, which is not good for this hero. Still hasn't found a good balance since the rework, I think. Like, when they did the Ags change where you could turn into allies and be completely broken, we saw the Morphling Shaker every game, Morphling Dark Willow sometimes, and he was, like, in a gimmick position after the changes when he was nerfed. And then they took that away, and I feel like they even took E-Blade away. And he was kind of okay last patch. I think he was playable, but this, like, just seems a lot worse to me. I don't know. I'm also not a Morph specialist, so maybe someone sees something that I don't. Naga, the shard is, like, terrible. don't even worry about it. This reel-in is a huge meme. And the rest of the stuff really doesn't matter either. This Nature's Prophet shard is like interesting utility because it gives vision for quite a while. Like 6 seconds of vision can be okay. But the old shard was just so good that this just seems terrible compared to it. Like this just seems like completely useless. These changes, nobody really cares. Just small changes. Ogre change. Honestly, I think this is overall worse. I think the big part of Ogre support was you would just run in 1v2 and just be tanky and win the trade. And even though, like, you're a melee hero, so you're gonna be hit more often than you hit. So it's, like, worse for you if you're regenning and have lower armor, right? Regenning less, have lower armor. Sure, when you get to hit people, it'll be better, but why not just pick Treant? And it does little, like, this is just a big nerf, I think, for the hero overall.
Tower is under attack.
Omni doesn't really matter. Same with Oracle. These heroes still seem pretty bad. OD might be better now with the new, like, no small camp as well, but again, I'm not sure about this hero. I think it should be good, but it might still not be good, if that makes sense. Like, that's really, like, diplomatic type of answer, but I'll probably try it a couple of games myself in games I think that it's good, but yeah, it's just hard to have a good build because the Meteor Hammer thing seems kind of weaker now, and Witchblade is cool, but then you don't go Astral, which, you know, Astral would be really nice with the Flag Bearer creep, so, like, what are we going to do? You know, it just doesn't seem like things fit very well for him. Pango, very strong hero, overall buffed. I'm going to have to start playing this hero more. I suck at it, honestly, still. My laning's pretty good on it, but, like, I literally drive drunk when I ult, so doesn't look too hot when I'm playing it on stream. PA, we talked about a bit already. These are nice little buffs. The other changes to the game itself benefit her a lot more than these, but these are nice buffs as well. PL, basically no changes. Phoenix has been getting slightly buffed a lot. This hero was actually really popular last patch, so I don't know why it got buffed again. But very, very strong, I still think. Primal Beast is like weird. I'll have a better idea of how good this hero is in like a week or two from now if people try to practice it a lot during since it's in captain's mode, but shouldn't be that strong. Could be surprisingly strong if people find a good way to play it, but as it's played today, it doesn't feel very good. Puck, honestly, a little worse late game, which has kind of been the theme for a lot of heroes, like Refresher, like the Batrider double Firefly change. Like, some of the late game stuff gets nerfed, but kind of basically the same hero. Still very strong, probably still broken, honestly. Could have used a bit more nerfs. Pudge seems about the same as before, just a bit of a nerf. Pugna, not really sure about this. The spell damage reduction was kind of what made it really strong, and then it stopped getting picked anyway. Quap Ags, I played twice on stream already. I feel like it's very, very strong. And this hero is also very, very strong because we're like in a lane-dominating meta, especially for mid with no small camp. So you should expect to see this hero quite a bit. It is a bit awkward because Puck is still strong and it's a classic counter to Quap, but yeah, I think the hero is very, very good. Razor seems a lot worse now, especially with the Refresher and BKB nerfs. Mana pool is a big constraint, and like the Link nerf seems really bad, and movement speed nerf seems really bad. Just a bunch of stuff that's just not good for him. And Ricky changes don't matter. Rubik changes. The armor's kind of nice, but honestly doesn't matter. Same with Sand King. This new Shadow Demon spell seems really good. I've only seen one Shadow Demon, and honestly, like, it wasn't Shadow Demon's fault that the game didn't go well, so I have to see it a bit more. And I didn't really notice the spell that much either, so I don't know. It seems like it's just a better version of Fatal Bonds that lasts this long, but I'm honestly not sure. SF, I can finally say, is a good hero. I think this hero is very strong mid, especially with the right-click build. I think I saw BZM play it at ESL with the magic build, and he won. The hero just is really strong because of how important laning mid is right now. Like, the flag bearer creeps or whatever, bullying people out of lane, no small camp, all this stuff helps him a lot. And this, like, slow on the Shadow Rays is also really strong. Plus, I think that's it. Shadow Shaman, not sure about. Silencer, these are all like up and down, left and right changes. Probably Hero still sucks. Same problems it has before. It needs some type of big change, I think, to make a difference. Unless the numbers just get completely out of control. Skywrath seems the same as before. Slardar, like, yeah, these are cool changes or whatever, but honestly, exact same hero as before. Probably same with Slark. Snapfire, I'll say that the old shard was probably better for core if you're like trying to catch people and kill them. But this new shard is very good for support. You get much more reliable wave clear from further away. And it just like is just way better for support. So I think this is a big buff to the hero in general, since it's mostly played as support anyway. I'm glad this custom grenade got nerfed. I didn't realize it was that strong even because it was barely picked in my games, but this hero is always annoying to play against because of the shard, so at least they can't use it while rooted. Not sure why Spectre got nerfed. Really don't understand why, but I guess, sure. Spearbreaker's shard is a complete meme. I think I saw on Reddit that if Spearbreaker's charging and you just don't even finish casting a targeted spell and he has this on, it just stops his charge, so like you don't have to finish the spell, which is very weird. Storm, pretty much same as before. Should be a little stronger early, maybe, I don't know. But a big power spike for him was the 25 with shard timing, so it kind of sucks for the super late game. But everyone's super late game pretty much got nerfed, it seems like, so. Sven, you know, already a good hero, probably a little better now. Techies' minefield sign seems absolutely bonkers. You just can't kill any of the bombs when he goes on somebody with it, and that just does so much damage. I think this hero is just missing a little bit of oomph to make him really, really good, and this might be what it is. Or maybe he'll just still like need a bit of a buff to be completely bonkers. I expect to see this hero tested with a lot and probably end up being pretty good. TA on buffed, I guess. I don't know why. Hero's really good. Terrorblade seems cool. A little bit of health regen's nice in the lane. Sunder buff was probably nice. I don't know about the duration versus the cooldown. Cooldown's probably better since people tend to purge the first reflection off. Tidehunter, this shard seems really good. I just don't know if it's good enough to make him really good. I think it's probably a good hero. I don't know, maybe even viable as support. It's hard to say. Other supports are also got better, so like a Hoodwink versus a Tide. Tiny's still really, really good, you know, like not sure where he would really fit in the lineup. Like I kind of mentioned before, these Timber changes, you'd really have to ask a Timber expert how much it matters. It seems like they just moved his numbers left and right, and maybe it's like a 5% overall nerf or something, which like doesn't really matter. I don't know. Yeah. Same thing with Tinker, although a more extreme case. Big buff to his ulti, but also big nerf to his ulti. So, like, if you get interrupted, you can die a lot easier now, but you can use way more ults in a fight because the cast time got reduced and the mana cost. So it should be way stronger. Also, the laser mana buff helps a lot, so it's in the lane. It's a lane dominator meta, you know, like he's very strong in the lane with both his nukes. It's really hard to say. It is a huge drawback to get interrupted and go on cooldown for 6 seconds, but the hero itself is very strong.
Your middle barracks are under attack.
Tiny, same as before. Only good mid and 4, really, and that doesn't really change. If anything, it nerfs the carry build again for some reason. I think we can get out of demo mode actually since we're getting to the end of this. I thought I would use it a little more, but it's just making noise. Let's see. Tree, still really good, I think. Same hero. The 25 talent to make Overgrowth undispellable is very strong. But 25 on Tree, like how often does that happen, you know? If like a tree falls in the middle of the woods type of thing. This is probably one of the biggest changes to a hero I can think of. Troll Warlords Pierce the spell immunity. This is completely broken. I expect this to get changed in some way. I feel like this hero is just insanely broken right now. Either as carry or middle. I don't know. It just seems ridiculous. Honestly, I think Troll's ultimate is still really bad, but this makes up for it in a big way. And you should expect to see this hero a lot like the next coming couple weeks, even at ESL probably. Tusk, I'm glad Walrus Kick got nerfed because that was incredibly annoying to ever push into. You just get kicked into the base with no counterplay. Other than that, cool changes. None of this stuff for Underlord really matters. Undying Core, very powerful. I think I've seen Echo Saber BKB, or is it like Echo Saber Ags BKB, or Echo Saber BKB Ags? Some combination of that. It just seems incredibly strong. I haven't really messed with the changes myself. I just know that it seems completely broken. I haven't really seen this hero lose, to be honest, on my team or the enemy team. Especially as 3. Ursa changes don't really matter. Venge changes or whatever. Venoshard seems very broken. I think I saw one game at ESL where it was picked and they won. It was a long game, but like obviously you get poisoned, you want to take poison off. You take poison off with Manta or BKB, you get stunned for 2 seconds through BKB. Ridiculous. I don't know. Veno OP. Viper, same hero, but a little worse in lane, so maybe we get picked a little less often. I don't know. It was picked like every game last patch, so Visage still seems very strong. Didn't really get changed that much at all. Void Spirit's a very controversial change. People have come into my Twitch chat and been like, this hero sucks now. It's unplayable. Honestly, I think late game it's worse. You'd rather have the Spell Amp and the Stun, but the mid game is so much better with getting the Outer Dissimulate Ring for free. A big problem you have in the mid game on this hero is you jump in, and you want to use your second ult for damage or to reposition. Like, usually you want to go in first or kind of close to first, and then you have problems getting out. And, like, the W is a pretty low cooldown. Before, you can kind of get chased down because you couldn't go as far. It feels so hard to chase this hero. I played Ember vs. Void today, and he was getting so far away. It always felt like he either had his W or his ult up, because by the time you catch up to him after he Ws or ults away, the W's off cooldown again. And not having to buy it makes your mid-game timings a lot stronger. And I think the hero, honestly, like, overall is about the same. Probably just worse in the patch in general anyway, because he doesn't lane that well against a lot of the popular, or what I think will be popular mids. Just gets behind a little easier. Didn't really care about the small camp, but also benefited a lot from hitting 6 early and just roaming around in bad matchups, and you're going to hit 6 later, on top of the fact people are going to pick bullying heroes a lot more often. Warlock change is not a big deal, I don't think. This Shard on Weaver seems really strong, but could also be worse than the old Shard, so it's hard to say. Overall, same hero. Same with Windrunner. I don't know how often I'd even get Ags with this new one, but maybe it's really good, I don't know. I feel like invisibility is either really good or really bad, depending on if they have a gem or not. So, super late game, it should be really strong when people are inventory slot starved, but if people buy detection, it shouldn't be that important early on. And everything else, I think, besides this Death Ward change, they're pretty much the same heroes. Like, Witch Doctor got changes that are pretty significant, and in a lane-heavy meta, he should be picked quite a bit. So this hero should be strong. I think he would have been strong without these changes anyway, though. It's the thing. The Voodoo Switcheroo lasting longer is really good for him, too. This hero probably will get picked a decent amount more. Wraith King, I mean, I don't know. It seems the same to me. Zeus actually seems pretty bad to put multiple points in your E now. Like, it's nerfed. Like, the slow doesn't go up. The cooldown doesn't go as low as it did before. The slow is a little worse. The hero is still strong, I think, but definitely, like, good to see some sort of nerf on this jump spell. I think it's probably just balanced now. It's not great, but not bad. Kind of where you'd want him to be. Probably don't do any type of different build. Like, you would get this -4 heavenly jump cooldown talent anyway, and it kind of balances out, but at the same time you're losing the slow, and you know, it just small changes that kind of affect him in a bigger way, I think, than the other small changes for other heroes. But yeah, that's about it for my like first impressions, predictions for the patch. I actually really like this patch compared to the ones we've seen before. This one's a lot more exciting. I think I really enjoy the mid changes, not having the small camp. I think the water runes and the small camp made the game really toxic for mid, from my perspective, and a lot of other mid players kind of felt the same. And although we still have the water runes, no small camp is like a godsend. I feel like I have so much more fun. Plus, Coddle's not like just blasting waves and creeps, like basically playing PvE and forcing me to play PvE and not laying against anyone either. Like stuff like that just happens way less often. And yeah, didn't expect this to really take an hour, but here we are. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe to my Twitch, my YouTube, make some more content based on this patch. Leave a comment if you have any questions about the patch stuff. Maybe I missed something or you think something's super cool. And yeah, until next time.